Welcome to Life Well Booked, where short term rentals, bold business moves, and intentional living collide. We are your hosts, Britt Baltazar and Stefanie Gould. This is a place for real talk, fresh perspective, and powerful inspiration to help you create a life and business you are obsessed with. So, whether you're building, growing, or leveling up, let's do this.
Welcome to Life Well Booked, where we are here to talk about all things vacation rental. We have a wide variety of vacation rental opportunities here in Arizona. So remember, some of the information you're going to get is coming from the point of view of being an Arizona vacation rental company and manager. Elite Vacation Rentals is the company that we work for, again, here in Chandler, Arizona. Today, we thought we'd start by talking about some terminology and the vernacular that's used in the vacation rental industry today is quite different than it has been over the course of time. Remember, this industry is growing up as we watch it grow. It has certainly grown over the last 14 years that I've been doing this. I was telling somebody the other day that I think that Airbnb was practically not even a thing 14 years ago when I started. I used Vrbo only back in the day. So everything in our industry has evolved quite a bit, and so has some of the terminology. So this might be a little rudimentary or remedial, if you will, but I think it's important so that when and if you listen to us in the future or any other podcasts or any other information about the vacation rental industry, you kind of know some of the buzzwords and the way that people talk about things. So, the most obvious thing that I can describe to you is the word STR. STR is for short term rental, and people call vacation rentals STRs all the time now. So, that seems to be the new vernacular. A typical STR, also interchanged with the word vacation rental, is typically a short term rental, less than 30 days, 3 night, 5 night minimum. Typical short term rental, no matter where it is. STR is the first term that I wanted to make sure you knew about. Short term rental. Another common term is called a midterm stay. So while you have the traditional STRs being short term, midterm stays are stays that are 30 days to 4 months in length. And midterm stays are they primarily rear their heads in areas like Arizona, where we have many, many homes that have very strict HOA policies, et cetera, and their CCNRs regarding the STR community. Those are called midterm stays, and those again are stays that are 30 days to 4 months. After that, the most obvious one is a long term stay. And so a long term stay for us is over 4 months. Things that are done differently in a furnished rental that is a long term stay will be a different type of rental agreement, could include things like a payment plan. Remember, everything midterm stay and below is all collected before people check in. But occasionally on these long term stays, we have to work out separate agreements. So those are more than 4 months, but furnished rentals. Next would be the terminology host. Pretty simple to understand who that is, but the host, when anyone is talking about it, is either the owner of the property or someone like me that manages vacation rentals for a living. We're hosting the property, and so we're the ones kind of controlling how the rental goes. A guest is someone that's staying at the property. It is not interchanged in the vacation rental industry with the word tenant. Tenants are typically, for us, in our long term unfurnished rentals. So, guests is what we are servicing and taking care of here in the vacation rental industry. Next is when we refer to your listing. Your listing is really the description of your property and what the entire listing looks like. It's how you're presented on all of the different websites that your property is displayed on. The listing is the core fabric of your property and how it's being advertised. An OTA, that's a new term that has come on board with things like Airbnb and Vrbo, which have been around for a while. But the terminology called OTA is for an outside travel agent. That can mean a typical outside travel agent, just like you would imagine the old style, travel agent sitting in their home or office and booking travel for people. We definitely still accommodate folks like that do business that way. But the typical OTA is an Airbnb, a Vrbo, an Expedia, a Booking.com, a Marriott, etc. Those are the channels of which we display your booking or your listing so that people can book it. Same day arrival. Same day arrival is pretty obvious, but it means someone has booked that day for that day. So a same day arrival for us is I booked on the 23rd and I'm staying on the 23rd. We call that a same day arrival. Early check-in, pretty easy to understand. Here at Elite Vacation Rentals, we offer early check-ins 24 hours before arrival if available. And we have 2 time slots that our guests can pay for if they would like to access the property early, if it's available. We have an 11 o'clock time slot and we have a 2 p.m. time slot, and they both have different prices associated with them. Late checkout is anything that's past the standard 11 a.m. checkout time. And this is usually, if available, based on a sliding scale in price. It's not quite as delineated as the early check-in, where we have a 2 o'clock and an 11 o'clock check-in. The scale is usually a little different on the late checkout. Some people have much different times that they need to leave. And late checkout is everything from 1 hour to 8 hours after checkout. And there's a sliding scale associated. Here at Elite Vacation Rentals, we rarely offer late checkout because it has ramifications about the night being booked to someone else on a same day reservation. It also has ramifications for our cleaning team, etc. So late checkout is reserved for special circumstances, but a late checkout is exactly what it sounds like. Back-to-back stays. You'll hear people talk about back-to-back stays. We have guests that occasionally get a little confused about their booking, and instead of them extending their current reservation, they book another reservation with the same checkout date as the check-in date that they're planning on. So back-to-back stays are when people book 2 reservations, one checking out the same day, one checking in the same day, but it's really for the same guest. A rental agreement is how we talk about what people sign when they rent one of our properties. We used to call them leases, but really typically leases are reserved for unfurnished properties that are long-term in nature, so traditional rentals. We use a rental agreement, which instead of being based on real estate law, even though we're all realtors, is based on hotel law. So our rental agreement is now based on hotel law. And this is primarily so that in case someone overstays their welcome, we can trespass them out of the property without an incident. We have a contract that says 11 a.m. on the last day is the last moment of time. And if they exceed that and it becomes a problem, we have the ability to remove them from the property and trespass them out of the property versus fully evicting them as you would normally have to do on a long-term stay. So now on to another category, which is really about property care. You all know we all talk about things in the housekeeping and maintenance world, and that's what we call property care. So typically we talk about cleanings. Cleanings are when guests need to have the property cleaned after their departure. Simple as that, it's called a cleaning. Mid-stay cleans are when we have folks that are staying a little bit longer and maybe want to have their place cleaned in the middle of their reservation. So if somebody's staying 30 days, as an example, 2 weeks in, they're like, hey, we'd like to have the whole house cleaned. That usually comes with an extra fee, but it's called a mid-stay clean. Inspections. Inspections are done also in the property care area, and inspections are typically done in our world after a house is cleaned. So after a house is cleaned, we send an inspector who does an inspection, who is doing things like inspecting the clean, making sure The house is certified ready for the next guest, and they do many other things too, but they're one of our key reasons why we catch damages too, because we have the cleaners looking and we also have the inspecting. So inspections are really about checking the clean and after the clean. That's when an inspection is typically done in our world. Work orders. Work orders are a way that we track anything that needs to be done at the property, whether that's inventory replacement. Let's give an example that you need all new towels because someone has ruined them all. That's an inventory replacement, and that requires a work order. Also, anything maintenance related. My water heater blew up, my toaster's broken, any of the above. Those are all things that fall under the category of work orders. Very important that everything is tracked so that you keep track of everything that needs to be done at every house. Property types would be another category. One property type, and there's many types of properties that are offered. I'm going to speak only today about what we offer here at Elite Vacation Rentals. We offer two types of properties. We offer what's called the entire place, and the entire place is you're renting the entire condo, the entire house, etc. It's not a portion of the house, it's not a room in the house, it's the entire place. So that's what in our world, in the STR vernacular, entire place means the entire house. Pretty obvious, but got to say it out loud because it does come up as you're answering questions quite a bit. It comes up in a lot of language and actually a lot of guests ask too. Are called accessory dwelling units. Here in Arizona, they're typically called casitas, and it really means the same thing. It's usually a standalone, separate unit that is attached or unattached, but that can be rented either together with the main house or the entire place, or it can be rented as a standalone unit. But again, you're renting the entire casita and you would be totally self-sufficient in that. We don't rent rooms. We don't rent rooms within rooms. We don't rent anything like that. Pricing and fees. You'll hear a lot of terminology around these items too. So, most obvious is nightly rate. That's pretty obvious. You know what that means. It means what you're charging for the night. So, you'll hear a lot of conversation about nightly rates. So, please know that that's what that's about, cost per night. Our cleaning fee. Another one that's sort of obvious, but the cleaning fee is there for the end of the stay. The end of the stay is when the clean is done and it's being readied for the next guest. So the cleaning fee is what guests pay for during their reservation that gets them a clean on the way out. Damage waiver fee. Here at Elite Vacation Rentals, we offer a damage waiver, which we use in place of a security deposit. So we collect a fee from each guest, and that gets each one of our guests $3,000 worth of accidental damage coverage. Typically, it's anywhere from $59 to $79, and we actually self-insure our damages here at Elite Vacation Rentals. So the nice thing is if somebody does have a guest damage in their home, we have the ability to get that paid for, get that replaced or repaired or whatever's necessary with what we call the damage waiver fee. Home automation fee. Here at Elite Vacation Rentals, all of our homes are smart. And I mean, they have electronic door locks, they have obviously Wi-Fi, they have Sonos systems, they have misting systems, they have automated pool systems. The home is fully automated in the best way that we know how. We charge a $10 fee for home automation, and that's because we do have to hook up to quite a few different applications and make all the home automation work. But it's really a smart home automation fee, and it's $10 here at Elite Vacation Rentals. Credit card fees. Credit card fees, again, pretty obvious, but you'll hear people talk a lot about credit card fees. Credit card fees are things that are added to the reservation when people are using a credit card. There are ways here at Elite Vacation Rentals where people do not have to experience a credit card fee, but for the people that prefer to keep it on their credit card, the credit card fee is between 3 and 5%, and that is added on top of the reservation. The banks charge the vacation rental companies like us, and we do pass that fee on to our guests. Occupancy tax or transient occupancy tax or TPT tax. It's called transient privilege tax here in Arizona. Arizona collects a fee on short-term rentals, and that is paid to the Arizona Department of Revenue. It's a sliding scale fee, and it's based on which city in Arizona that you live in or where your home is located. Sorry, where the vacation rental is located. The next is occupancy tax or TPT tax. It's transaction privilege tax here in Arizona, and I'm sure every state has their version of this. Each individual city in Arizona has a special TPT tax, and they are all collected and paid to the Arizona Department of Revenue. This is strictly a tax for Arizona, and it again is done on a city by city basis, and it ranges in price from city to city. Here at Elite Vacation Rentals, we actually collect that fee and pay that fee on our owner's behalf to the Arizona Department of Revenue, and we keep them totally legal and up to date on all of their tax filings. Everything together between the vacation rental company and the credit card company so that you are it's collected and paid out properly. In many STRs, we are the merchant of record, which is another great term. Merchant of record means you're the one doing the collecting. So you're the one saying, I'm taking the risk, I'm taking on this collection, I'm using that payment processor or credit card processor we just talked about, and making sure that we have the ability to charge and or capture credit card transactions and actually be paid out on them. Companies like Airbnb, we are not the merchant of record. As you know, Airbnb collects all the money themselves and then they pay us. So that makes them the merchant of record. Companies like Vrbo, we have a relationship where we are still the merchant of record. So Vrbo takes reservations on our behalf. They pass us the reservations after they've taken their fee out, and then we become the merchant of record. So we are the one processing their credit card payments and or taking on the risk that's associated with that. There's risks and rewards with being the merchant of records. Turnovers. Turnovers are really just the cleaning and preparing between guests, but you'll hear people talk about turnovers all the time. Turnover is really that 4 or 5 or 6 hour period between your checkout time and your check-in time. That's the turnover. Same day turns are when guests are checking out and a new guest is checking into that property on the very same day. That's a same day turn. So that turnover period would actually only be that 4, 5, or 6 hour time period in between because you have to ready the house the same day from the minute that people leave to when the next group comes in or the next guest come in at 4 o'clock. Self check-in. Self check-in, again, is fairly obvious, but having automation and smart locks and ways for people to get in the home without you having to meet them is ideal. A self check-in is when the guests literally don't have to meet you. They've been provided all of the move-in instructions and information they need to be successful in your home or condo, and they can do it themselves. That's called a self check-in. House rules. House rules are things that are super important to identify. They're very property-specific guidelines for your particular situation in your particular STR or vacation rental. They include things like smoking policies and quiet hours and how to use pools and times to use pools and safety. And house rules are very common and should be established for each and every house and make them not as generic as possible, make them as specific as possible to each of the different homes that you manage. Amenities. Amenities, again, fairly obvious, but amenities are all of the things the home offers outside of the house and the bedrooms and the structure. They could be things like Wi-Fi or boat rentals or golf cart rentals or pool heaters or pools in general. Amenities can be small things like shuffleboard tables, and they can be big things like giant heated pools and spas. PMS. PMS is called property management software. And this is very critical if you're managing any more than 10 properties to have some kind of software so that you can make sense out of everything that's going on with your vacation rentals. There are many, many companies out there, small operators to big operators, and PMS is what's that called. When you stop doing things manually and you actually have a system that helps you manage all of the reservations, all of the property care that's necessary, all of the billing and accounting, etc. That's called a PMS or a property management system. Here at Elite Vacation Rentals, we use a company called Streamline, and Streamline is one, again, of many. They are all very different. Some scale to many, many properties. Streamline is who we use at Elite Vacation Rentals. Almost everything, and some PMSs actually do everything. But there are times when there are outside companies that are just better at certain things than your PMS company. Think of the PMS as a broad brushstroke into managing your vacation rentals, and anything that you would contract outside of that that's part of your tech stack would be things that are better done with an outside company. An example here at Elite Vacation Rentals is we use an outside company to do our reputation management, which is about review management. And they have that available in our PMS, but the company that we use on the outside of our PMS, that's a part of our tech stack, actually just does a better job because they're very focused on just that one service. So your tech stack is really all of these individual companies that you use that are bolted on in some way as enhancements to your PMS. Performance metrics. Now, this is an important one because you really need to know how you're thinking about managing the metrics of how you're doing. So there's some terminology that goes along with that. Occupancy rate would be the most obvious. How many nights and what percentage of the time is your property booked? That's a simple occupancy rate, so it's percentage of nights booked. The average daily rate is another obvious one, but also important for understanding your metrics. Your average income per booked night is what an ADR is. So you basically are taking the average income per night and spreading it over all your booked nights. It's a simple equation, but an important equation to understand what your average daily rate is. Another way to measure, which you might argue is part of measurement and maybe even the best way, is called RevPAR. RevPAR takes the last two things we spoke about, your occupancy rate and your rate, and it combines the two and it comes up with a RevPAR, a revenue per available unit. That is a better monitor because you're basically combining the nights booked with your rate versus just doing an average or a median. The booking window, understanding your booking window becomes critically important because it's how you manage your rates and how you manage your time. If you know that on average people book 7 days in advance, you have a very different scenario if people than if people are booking 45 or 50 days in advance. Your rates will be fluctuating based on what your booking window is, and your booking window changes all the time. It can change with seasonality, it can change with the market metrics, it can change with just the economy. So watching your booking window and understanding when it's tightening or when it's opening up is very important because it'll help you very much with rate management. Well, I think that's about a wrap on some of the terminology, but I wanted to make sure you had all the information so that when we're talking and when you're listening, you have a basic understand of some of the terminology that you'll hear in this great business of vacation rental management. Thank you, and we really appreciate you being here on Life Well Booked.
Thanks for being here on Life Well Booked. If this episode fired you up, made you think, or left you feeling inspired, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Until next time, keep showing up big, living with intention, and building a life that stays well booked.